Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey folks, morning, evening, afternoon.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Hey everyone, not bad, thanks. How about yourself?
Slowly trying to wake up.
That's
Hey.
good.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Here's one good.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can, yep.
Okay, perfect.
Hopefully screen sharing is working. I guess we'll give it another minute or so for people to rejoin. So yeah, welcome back. Folks, I think there's a few of you on the call who were at FOSDEM. I hope it was fun, and if you've got anything in particular you want to share your experiences of it, then it'd be interesting to hear.
Yeah, I was there. It was my first time, and it was very interesting. I didn't think that we could fit that many people in small Belgium. Like it was very packed, and the I guess the strategy that I've heard about before of you just pick a room and camp out there the whole day. I get it now, because those rooms there was no way to move around and things like that, right? So um, it was hard to get in and out of the rooms. But yeah, I got to meet quite a few people. I got to meet Fabiano. I got to meet Magnus, Jeremy from Microsoft, and overall it was a pretty good experience. After my talk on secure storage, um, I got to exchange some ideas with other folks that were also interested in storage, for confidential computing. Um, so yeah, it was a pretty interesting experience overall, I would say.
Oh, sounds good, and good. Much better problem to have there being too many people interested than too few.
Yeah,
It's good.
yeah.
Cool. Right, I guess we can get started. Who are we going to sing? There's no Greg, but Greg's has some personal challenges at the moment, so might not be able to join us today. So cool. So let's have a quick blitz through the actions from the previous meetings, some of which I think are probably carried forward. So Greg was going to create a deprecation PR process, which is based on this issue. there is potentially a learning point if people haven't read. SEV support is being effectively withdrawn by AMD, which means we are going to have to remove some features from Kata as well. So we were discussing whether there was a chance, whether there's anything we can learn from that in the deprecation process, but it's not a typical removal of features because it was never really fully supported and it was never tested. So it's kind of removal of an experimental feature. So it doesn't necessarily have the same rigor. Greg has shared that he's not able to, at the moment, doesn't have capacity to drive this on. So we'll either, if someone else can pick it up, that'd be great. Otherwise, we can revisit formalizing the deprecation process later. Maybe we'll learn some stuff from the 9p approach, which is going forward as well. The next item, requiring the Cocoa non-T tests. So we are, we still have not got stability for them. It's getting better. We've got two out of 10 failed, and working with Aurelia and Dan and some other folks, and the main one of the main causes of instability is policy job failures. So we're gonna skip that. So hopefully, if we get another review and can merge that in, that should help. So hopefully next week we'll be good on that.
I was just looking at this PR, and it seems like some of the container T tests are failing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna look at that.
Yeah. I won't debug. I'll have a look.
Mhm.
Yeah. Some of the tests have not been super stable. There was GitHub status said it was all green earlier, but we had a lot of failures with actions marketplace, getting
Mhm.
timeouts and stuff like that. And yeah, just in general, I guess it's probably a good thing to mention. The nightlies are just a bit meh at the moment. It's paused at the moment because one of the CDX machines has been out, but there's the required stuff is okay, but we've had some issues like we are related. So the firecracker tests and the TDX non-attestation have been consistently failing the last week on the block volume test. Generally, SEV SMP has been pretty unstable. There was some instabilities on the ZVS side that Choi, from some of the image bumps last time, which Choi's working on a fix for around measured RFS. So yeah, it's not in a great spot. But yeah, Dan's PR is very unlikely to be the cause of the failure because it's just skipping some tests. But yeah, we're not in a great position is a fair comment on that. Last week we discussed the onboarding presentation. So Ildico's created an Etherpad. So I guess we either have some time in this one or an action for us to try and review it and add some thoughts. Sorry.
Yes,
I've lost
please. I also have a Google slide deck. If the link is not here, then it is in the Etherpad.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So I think people should be able to add comments to it. But let me know if not. And yeah. It would be great if we could make this more up to date. I don't know how many, it's hard to tell how many people stumble onto it. I don't know what drag that information out, but like if someone like me, for example, would like to give a more of a beginner presentation about Kata, which I sometimes do, I usually go to this slide deck because it has the baseline information. So it's not just useful for people who are new to the project and would like to understand it and just looking around on the website in terms of what resources they can find. But if someone actually wants to do a presentation, it is it is a great source of a starter material. So if we keep it up to date, then we also help ourselves too if we need a slide or two or a half-baked slide deck for a presentation, then we have some place to go to grab that.
Yep. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, having it as a kind of master source for stuff definitely sounds like a good idea. So yeah, I guess that's an action item on everyone to have a review of the deck and either leave comments in here or in the Etherpad. So Ildiko created a poll for the VPTG times. There's only myself and Marcus who have voted on it, but I must admit it slightly passed me by, and I didn't notice it for a few days until I went and hunted and looked for it. So yeah,
I will put it in back again.
yeah, that'd be great. And if folks can have a look, yeah. The other two actions I kind of carried across was we talked about, I had quite a long discussion about vulnerability management, and we said we kind of needed to update our the vulnerability management team. I've seen, Ildiko, that you added some information based on your discussion, so I didn't know if you just wanted to chat about that now.
Oh, you mean the clarifications. So
Yeah.
I talked to, no, I just put PR links in here too about the topic and okay, but yeah. So I talked to Jeremy a little bit and what he said basically is that at least in OpenStack, they are in the phase when they're happy when someone volunteers and they usually hold on to the volunteers for the vulnerability management team. So they don't really have a formal election process in terms of how to build the team. Like people who the current team trusts and are volunteering for the job, I think they usually get it. And one thing he reminded me of that in at least in Launchpad, people who are not part of the team anymore, they still remain subscribed to those bugs and bug reports. So if you keep Launchpad or use another tool that has a similar approach to this, then if you rotate the team too often, then you end up with a lot of people who are not part of the vulnerability management team anymore, but still have access or visibility to these bug reports, or at least get a notification about it, which we may or may not want to have. And I think just in general, the notion was to try to avoid rotate people too often on the team just to make sure that there's a good oversight of like what the state of affairs is in terms of vulnerability management and there's some continuity um, in how to handle the process and making sure that whatever bug is open that gets handled. But other than that, yeah, it's in OpenStack, it's pretty organic, and they don't have enough volunteers to run elections for the team. I don't know
Yeah,
if it's helpful information, but yeah.
yeah, I think that's helpful, and it's quite interesting the size of the team, because I think ours was 7 or 8 people. A lot of whom, as we mentioned last week, don't seem to be involved anymore. But it's interesting that OpenStack is also a reasonably large project and has only got 3 people, so that maybe is a good data point for us about not having that team get too big. And yeah, the rotation is an interesting point. So yeah, I think we might need to revisit based on that and maybe update our process. So yeah, which speaking of which, that's probably sorry if I confused you earlier. Ildiko has raised a couple of PRs.
These are not for these are only pointers to the process, whatever process we decide, just to clarify that I did not have any suggestions for the process itself. And just one more note on the team size. So I believe that the OpenStack vulnerability management team, they would like to have more than 3 people if they could. However, the 3 people that they have, they are all active. So I think that's kind of the I'm not finding the words yet. But the bottom line of it, that it's not necessarily the recommendation to have the team as small as possible. It's like what Jeremy was pointing at is the frequent rotation of people, and always changing the people is what can cause challenges with some of the tools that, or consequences that you may or may not want to have. But yeah, I think probably a good middle ground is to see who's interested and has the bandwidth to carry out the responsibilities, to make sure that if Kata has a bigger team, that's great, but let's make sure that the team is actually able to be active and we don't have members on it who don't actually really have enough bandwidth, but are interested in the job.
Cool. Yeah, that's good extra info. So yeah, I was just saying there's a couple pointers to our links to our page, but I think the actual process content in the page is probably up for debate and grabs. And I know, Zonko, you weren't on the AC call last week, but we mentioned about in the Slack discussion, you talked about whether we could use the GitHub reporting process or something like that instead of Launchpad. So I think that's probably on the cards. And if we do have some guidance on vulnerability management team members and not wanting a high turnover, then yeah, maybe we can get that added to the proposal once we've made progress on it.
Yeah. I want to take a look into the GitHub, how GitHub handles that. The thing is, I don't have a Launchpad account, so I need to create now a Launchpad account to get it. And now hearing that with the what Ildiko mentioned right now, I don't see the benefit of using Launchpad as a CV tool for us. So maybe it would be good worthwhile to revisit how we are doing CV reporting. So let me take this as an AI to look into it, because everyone who is going to work on Kata and CVs will be a GitHub member. So maybe it would be, beneficial to use a GitHub tool rather than Launchpad. And if we move away from Git or GitHub or whatever else, then we still can revisit it. Yeah, I mean, nobody got any email notification through Launchpad, only the former members of the Launchpad group. So I don't see really the benefit of using the Launchpad.
I think at the time when the process was created, GitHub didn't really have a good way to handle it in terms of like reporting private bugs and those kind of things. Or
Yeah.
you needed to have a separate repo that was private, and then it was a whole convoluted, complicated process to be able to handle vulnerability management. And I think they improved that since a lot. So hopefully this is a better time to look at that tool to utilize it.
Yeah, definitely, because I took a brief look, and you can create private branches, and you can create like private issues and private PRs and stuff like that. So it's now far better than it was before. So that's why I said, and I know all the projects are hysterically grown, so we need something now. And the best solution was Launchpad, but I think now we need to revisit it and see what's the best for us moving forward.
Yeah. And just one more note on the pointers. So Jeremy from our team is participating in the open regulatory compliance working group, which is a European working group that is looking into the Cyber Resilience Act, which is now landed in Europe. So they're working on, agencies and authorities and everybody, standardization bodies are working on the implementation phase for the CRA. So things like having a vulnerability management process for open source projects and having that discoverable is something that will be part of things that they are looking for. So those two PRs are tiny steps to make sure that the process doesn't just exist, but people can also more easily find it. I know that it's never fully discoverable because it's just hard, but at least having some place on the website and some place in the main GitHub org README where it's specifically mentioned, I think that's a feasible, sufficient effort to say that we made it as visible as possible, and people can always stumble onto documentation from an angle where they will not see it right away, but then hopefully Google or other search engines will help them with that.
Yes, that's helpful, and I think the small amount I understand about like the Axe, Dora, and stuff like that is there is more of an onus either on us as a community to provide more, I guess, evidence or support of the processing we do, or if not us, then the downstream consumers to provide that, which probably would reflect back on some of us doing that upstream as well. So yeah, that'd be good to understand if there's anything else, good guidelines that Open Infra have got around how we can be compliant. Then yeah, it would be really interesting to hear from Jeremy. So thanks for sharing that.
I will keep you all posted as I learn more. It's the latest that I heard from him is that the pointers and that we are pushing a little more for the process to be visible is partially coming from the CRA related discussions. I mean, it is obviously important for this to be discoverable in general, but the CRA discussions are giving a good reminder for us to make sure that all of our projects actually do have access to it in visible places.
Cool. Any more thoughts or discussion on vulnerabilities or anything like that now? Okay, cool. So the next topic is one I put on the agenda, whatever the right verb is, about metrics. So for background for people, we have a bunch of tests which were required until quite recently, where there was some instability with a kernel bump. So they got made unrequired for that, but then we managed to make them more stable. Basically, they run on PRs, they do a bunch of workflow performance-y type stuff, and they check that the results are within certain bounds. We had some interesting issues with that kernel bump. Is that it in fact improved our performance, and so our latency reduced, which made all the tests fail because they were checking we weren't too quick for some reason. There's also, as I've been looking into this, a whole bunch of kind of tools in there which we don't run. I'm not quite sure. So this was work that the Intel team, based in Mexico primarily, were driving, and particularly Gabby owned, and they are no longer working on the project. So we've kind of been doing what we can, but had it as an item to maybe try and improve this. But there has been a development. So from kind of mid last week, or the end of last week, because it was post the AC meeting actually, we started having an issue where the setup step for the metrics test fails. It can't check out on the metrics runner. Previously, some of us were given access by Salvador. So I was, and I think Greg was given SSH access to the metrics runner, because it used to, if people are familiar, used to occasionally like have hiccups, so you just have to go in and clean things up. That has now been blocked, certainly for me. I don't know if anyone else has got it, but either the machine's been changed, but my SSH key has gone from authorized, so I can't go in and update or even check out what's going on with the machine anymore. So we had to make, previously the actual tests were not were removed from being required, but the setup was required. So we had to unrequire this because it was blocking everything. But I guess the question now is, given that the runner seems to be dead and there's no one who is maintaining it, does anyone have any strong feelings about the metrics and their importancy, or should we just kill this job rather than running a job which we know fails? I have tried tagging Salvador on the thread to ask about it. We didn't get any response, which is not necessarily unexpected given that they were moved on to a different project, but it means the owners of the runner are effectively no longer involved in the project. So I don't see a way that we go forward with the metrics tests as is. So I guess we have a few different options. We can either try and hunt down via Fabiano in the short term, see if there's anyone else in Intel that can access that machine and work out what's gone wrong with it. We could try and get a new runner. I don't know if any of the infrastructure for it is shared. We could just kill the job, remove it from the workflow, or we could go the whole hog and say, let's kill the job, remove them from the workflow, and delete all of the code that we're not running anymore. So yeah, I don't know what people's thoughts are. My view is I guess we can try following the Intel path, but they weren't of high value to us. So I don't know if we just kill them and start from scratch. I know we had a discussion, I don't know if it was this year or last year, and Zonko, I know you were thinking that we need some better quality performance metrics and capturing things and stuff like that, which these metrics tests don't necessarily do. They just say, oh, run this test once and check that the output is within this range. We don't capture and publish or benchmark or anything like that performance. So I don't know if they are of massive value.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone ever looked at any of those numbers, and they're not really use case driven. That just I'm not saying completely. Sorry, it's early in the morning. Wasteful, but customers have been asking for other metrics rather than metrics from some specific use cases. They're more interested in the performance of the complete stack, meaning how long does it take to spin up a pod, where's the most time spent, and stuff like that. So, and one thing I wanted to do to introduce such metrics now with what I'm doing for the GPU, for the runtimes, for peer pods, and as well for the local hypervisor use case, the bare metal use case, just to have some things for comparison. Yeah, I don't know how how much value we gain from those matrices. I think the idea is good to have at least some regression because we don't have any tests that measure performance regressions. And if some of the use cases really are off the charts, then with a PR, then I suppose that all of those metrics should be off the charts. If something went wrong in the complete runtime or in the kernel or in other components. Yeah, I need to think about that. I don't know what we're going to do with this metrics right now, but I have something in the pipeline for other metrics, like more concentrated on the infrastructure components. And depending on the use case, there are so many factors. I don't know if we can have, let me just think, if we can have a set of benchmarks that are really fingerprinting what we are doing. Yeah, but I need to think about that. It's complicated. I've done performance engineering for the last decade, so on various systems. So it's a complicated topic, but for regression, we should have something. I don't think that we need this whole set of uh, metrics to do. Yeah. Anyway, I need to think about that.
I kind of agree with you, Svanko. I think it's important to have metrics. It's important to have regression testing for the performance. We tried to take a look at the workflow in the past. A couple of iterations. It was a bit complicated or messy. I don't know. I wasn't aware that there was a specific machine that these tests were running. It was just one machine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a self-hosted runner, the metrics runner.
Okay. So I think we need to kick off a discussion maybe, or do that offline maybe, to try and identify what we're interested in measuring. I totally agree that it seems the most important part is the overhead of the runtime, how fast the workload can be spawned, what is the overhead from the hypervisor in terms of storage, in terms of network. So it is important as a workflow. Maybe we could simplify. We could base the new workflow on some of these code, some of these workflows. Reuse some of the stuff that's already there.
So with I was going to say, with my limited experience of trying to reset it when things went wrong, there was a Kubernetes cluster, and the metric stuff was a pod, a service that ran in the cluster, and then you got different pods for different tests and stuff. So, which doesn't sound sounds like a reasonable engineered approach, but might be more complicated than just starting with a GitHub hosted runner, installing Kata, seeing where we get. But I guess the weakness we have of that is we are sensitive to if GitHub images change, which we've seen. It's broken a few of us recently with incompatible glibc versions and stuff. So maybe there's a reason we need a self-hosted runner so that we've got a stable environment. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the other reasons for the bare metal runner, for the self-hosted runner, is the reproducibility of the results, because you could get overcommitted in the GitHub runner. You could end up running on a vCPU is being shared on a CPU, so you wouldn't get the correct
Yeah, you need a deterministic run, and it's hard to get a deterministic run on a shared run on a GitHub runner.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's all why we're seeing so much discrepancies in the metrics, because we are not in control of the environment, and we don't know about any noisy neighbors. So we don't know the starting conditions that we are basing the measurements off, right?
Yeah.
And then every performance benchmark. I mean, for the runtime, we cannot do a warm up phase, or do we have cold caches? Do we have hot caches? Stuff like that. It's getting really, really tricky if we want to make a confident measurement of a workload. Um, all the hardware components and the complete stack play into on the metric. So yeah, we need just to rethink and remap the metrics and think. I mean, we cannot warm up the caches for our runtime. But it's a good indicator how much time we are spending in the runtime, right? And then if we are doing like the measurements for peer pods, what also one of our customers ask, how long does it take? You're never always in control of the network, right? Where the control plane is running, how your networking is congested on the CSP side and stuff like that. So there's always things that can break, and yeah, we need to think how to do it properly with the limited resources we have.
Yeah, I guess that makes me think maybe there's kind of two purposes to the tests. One, we want to make sure there's not a significant regression, which hopefully, even if, we've got not the best, most reliable systems we can do, but I guess in terms of performance numbers, we're probably unlikely to get to a point due to the issues that you say that we can go, this is the hard benchmarks. So maybe what we focus on is we have something that we run and that users can run themselves. So we can say, let's focus on making this experience easy to do so you can reproduce it, and you guys go and run it on your own systems and you can get that benchmark, and it's kind of up to you to provide the stability. We'll just give you the tooling to measure, and maybe that's a more realistic approach going forward.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Really good
Yeah.
idea.
But still have for us a set of regression tests that we can run, right? But with I'm not saying too large margins that we are accepting, but enough tolerance that we can, tolerate. Yeah, we need just so that we are not changing the metrics benchmark every week because some minute detail changed. And well, the question would be why the metrics benchmark was so fragile by changing just the kernel or some smaller parts of the stack that we still always needed to bump stuff.
So I guess in fairness, I'm probably misrepresenting it. I had to fix maybe 5 or 6 tests. I think there are probably in the region of 50, 60 tests. So it was only the latency ones, and that was because the response times for workloads were improved. It was quite a big bump. I think we went from 6.1 to 6.12. But the tests were failing because our latency had improved and it was not expecting things to get faster. So so it was a good problem to have, but as Greg pointed out on some of the reviews, he was like, this is a waste of time. Why are we failing tests when performance is getting better, which I think is a fair point. So we probably want to factor that in. Obviously, if it comes back and we've got latency of 0 seconds, then yeah, we probably want to know about that because something's going wrong. But
Yeah.
yeah,
The thing is, if you're measuring something and it gets fairly better, usually it's the error path that goes through.
Yeah.
Right. So too much improvement is also bad. Yeah, I get it.
Cool. I guess in terms of the next steps, I'll reach out to Fabiano to see if there's a chance that Intel are going to put it back on, see what the response is. If that's a no, then I guess we just get rid of the workflow, but we'll leave the code in. It might be useful as a reference, but we also need to create an issue and start thinking about how we do a better the metrics version 2.
Is there a chance, if as a backup plan, could we reach out to some provider to get a bare metal node to be able to run metrics? Would that be a feasible path?
So you mean run the current metrics or the new improved one?
Starting from the current and based on the current code, we could improve that. But I guess we would definitely need some kind of. I mean, your proposal about having the infrastructure, the code available for people to run their own benchmarks is good. But apart from that, running the regressions would require bare metal node.
Yeah.
So as a backup plan, what could we do? I know the Equinix metal program is sunsetting, so we'll have to figure out a way about the ARM tests. So maybe we could treat it the same way. I mean, if we find something to do for the ARM stuff, then maybe we could find something for the metrics as well.
Yeah, so I'll also ask if there's the code they use to set up the runner is available and shared anywhere. Because if we need to start that completely from scratch, then I think even if we have a bare metal runner, we're better to design what we want rather than try and make something that looks like the old system. So
yeah,
we'll come back, and that will influence whether this is feasible, I guess. But yeah, it would be nice if we could keep the metrics on life support until we have a replacement, though. I definitely agree. Cool. Any other thoughts on metrics or performance tests? Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I mean, we've got lots of ideas, so I guess we need an issue if there's not already one, and we can start to discuss and capture these. Cool. So next topic, routing. You wanted to bring out, I guess, maybe an emulated RISC-V runner to start with.
Something like that. I met Fabiano during the FOSDEM, and I discussed with him that the RISC-V part could start with just building these artifacts, these components, and adding the component. We can't build all the components that Kata containers have at this stage. We can start from a subset of them and introduce the support of each components, add them finally add this build process to the components, component by component. So I'm proposing our organization have some SoftGo 2042 machines, that is RISC-V machines with 64 cores, but which does not have H extension and a advanced interrupt architecture, which means these machines are capable of building native build the RISC-V, the Kata containers on RISC-V environment natively, but not sufficient to run the tests on it. So I would suggest we can connect some of the, we can provide some of the 2042 machines as builders, and eventually move these artifacts into full emulated RISC-V machines like QEMU virtual machines. In that environment, we run the tests. That's a combination of the whole RISC-V workflow. If I may, I would like to share 2 pictures.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead. Let me stop.
Okay. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can, yeah.
Showing off.
Yes, these are RISC-V machines, which that's just what I just mentioned. SG 2042 chip. It's this one. It has 64 cores, but it does not have H extension. So on these machines, we cannot run the tests, but we can build the code on these machines. And these are 9950X AMD desktop CPU machines. We have like 80 of them. Both of these machines are in our server room, and they are locked. In our organization, only three members had access to it. I'm one of them. So we can run QEMU emulated RISC-V machines on these 9950X machines, which has a relatively high base frequency, so that can, in a way, to an extent, speed up the test process. So that's my proposal. So I would like some feedback. So what's the next step to do to push forward the RISC-V support? Yes, that's it.
Cool, great. And yeah, Anastasios, you were asking if we could get any bare metal machines anywhere, so it might be luck. But
Yeah,
no,
we could run RISC-V tests, metrics
yeah.
at the start.
But on a more serious note, yeah, I think from my point of view, I think that's the right approach to take to start building the components, and it maps what we've done with the other architectures. So I think we just start the process of onboarding for a self-hosted runner, and yeah, I think this is so kind of the approach is add the builders, then add some test machines which are emulated, and then finally migrate the tests to real hardware, I guess, which I think is what your end goal is for reaching.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess we can. Anyone else on the AC have any thoughts on it? But I think we can start the process as far as I'm concerned. I think Ruching has been around and involved enough in the community that we've got enough base level to get stuff up and running. Obviously, there are security vulnerabilities for the project with using self-hosted runners, which
Yes.
is a limitation that I don't think we have a way around at the moment, to be honest. So, yeah, it is something we need to review at some point. But I think at some point with open source, we've got to kind of go on trust with this stuff. So I'm happy to move forward. Sonko, did you have a comment?
Something crossed my mind, but I forgot it. Yeah, just put a runner in a DMZ so that anything that runs on the runner is not creeping into the internal network. But this should be like a corporate policy.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I had something, but anyway, yeah, I'll need to think about it.
Yeah, and I guess it's the other way around as well from a security point of view is when you use the runner, you will get GitHub tokens and stuff like that. So
Yes.
so they could be a malicious actor could capture some of those and then use them potentially against us, which
Yeah.
obviously would not be a good idea. So there is both ways around. Definitely protect the runner to make sure that if there was a malicious actor inside the community, that they weren't using your runners for Bitcoin mining or for running our metrics tests without your permission. But
Yeah.
obviously there is vice versa. But I think at some point we have to be practical, and we have to use self-hosted runners to support other architectures. At the moment, really, we don't have much choice. And I guess it's similar with GitHub. We're going on trust that GitHub runners don't have any nefarious access either. So, but yeah, so I guess if we go through the AC, probably should have a vote on this. So a vote on whether to onboard a self-hosted runner. Sorry.
Sounds good to me. I like the approach of doing it step by step. Makes it easier for everyone to understand. There's already a bunch of tests that we have, so I think slow and steady makes sense.
Yeah, I agree as well.
Bupan and Sonko?
Yeah, I'm okay.
I'm good.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. So I guess the next steps, reaching is I'm happy to try and be a point person if you want, or I guess have you read through the docs and stuff on adding a self-hosted runner?
Yes, I know how to add self-hosted runners.
Cool. So I guess it's just when you're ready and you need the token and stuff, then reach out on the Kata CI channel. Feel free to ping me, but if it's out of a time zone that I'm available, then if you do it on the CI channel, then someone else might be able to jump in and help. But does that sound okay?
Okay. Thank you for your understanding.
Cool. No worries. Right. Any other topics we want to discuss today? Got a little bit more time. Okay.
I guess I wanted to discuss the PR to modify the maximum memory for the guest VM, but that's
Yes.
probably a topic for Coco.
Yeah, so I originally put it on the AC, sorry, on the agenda for this call because to try and do a long story short, Dolly found that we have a default max memory of 0, which it means it uses all of the physical RAM, and Dolly is obviously lucky to have a very large machine with
Yeah,
with 1.9 terabytes of RAM. So
only 1.9. Wow, that's so small.
yeah, so it failed basically with a big max memory and kind of went wrong. So Dolly raised a PR to set the default max memory across the board
Sorry,
to
can,
only
can
be
you can you
10
just
gig. Sorry.
can you help me understand how that works, the default max memory setting? Because I actually don't understand the root cause here. So that's
Okay, so yeah, so
right.
in the runtime config, we have, if I can find, oh,
Yeah, so I'm aware that this setting is in the config,
yeah.
but then how does that play into VM creation? And also, is this only a QMU thing, or does this affect other VMMs? Do you
So
know?
I don't know, to be honest, but it means that
Mhm.
when you launch the system with QMU, then you will pass this max mem here. I assume that it does not QMU starts with the 2 gig and it doesn't allocate and take all of that, the 2 terabytes, but it's its kind of limit for what it can access. So
Right. So is it that QMU here is saying, oh, you're allocating maximum equals, I don't know, this number, but actually your host only has, less than maximum, and that's the issue?
I don't think so. The way I read it is just the amount of memory that it offers is just on and this is specifically to an SNP machine
Hmm.
that was being used, is it basically fails because it's like, oh, we're trying to map to a max memory that's beyond what we can support. That's my limited understanding of this. So
That we can support based on the host memory, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I guess maybe just because maybe SMP has some memory restrictions and translations of what's inside the encrypted memory and outside of it and stuff like that, which also
Yeah.
is a factor in here. But yeah, so
Yeah, we need to be cautious here what we're doing, what we're setting
yeah,
mux, because
Yeah.
in Kubernetes, if you have requests and limits
yeah,
and you don't know how much memory the pod will allocate in the end, you may break a pod that allocating it needs a lot of memory.
yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah, we
Because
need to look into it why this happens,
Hmm.
and
yeah.
then I don't
I don't think
because
we've
we've
seen
seen
this
this
in
in
cloud
production.
hypervisor.
We've seen this in production so one thing is if you allocate for the VM less than 16 gig, you are bombarding the VM with small chunks of memory hot plugging, and and then if you have a VM with 16 gig, that the memory hot plug of memory uses bigger chunks, so it takes less time to start up the memory. But then we have systems that also have such a big amount of memory, and some workloads need a lot of memory. And if we are setting an arbitrary number for max memory, then we may
Yeah.
break workloads that need a lot
Yeah.
of memory. So I'm not
Yeah.
understanding why the
Because
zero setting is not working SMP. This would be the first thing to know before setting
also,
any
I,
big.
I don't think we've seen this in cloud hypervisor, at least a specific issue. And also, setting a default of 500 gigs sounds sounds a bit excessive.
No.
Yeah. So maybe we should revisit. But yeah, I'll bring it up in the Coco meeting.
Yeah, yeah. So this was just to play out. So originally, Dali said raised a PR to change it across the board for every
Hmm.
config, and he set it to 10
Hmm.
gig. And went, why would you need more than 10 gig? That's a good amount of RAM. And I went, no, no, definitely not. So he's changed it to 512 gig,
Hmm.
and because we've only seen it on SMP, Fabiano's requested that it just get set in the SMP config. So
Right.
No,
I
no, still,
yeah,
I'm saying no to set it in
Yeah.
SMP for it. No,
Same.
this
Same.
shouldn't be a limitation. We need to know why this happens,
yeah,
because I haven't
yeah,
seen this in SMP as well on our systems, on our machines. So
Yeah.
we need first to see what's happening here.
I,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think to me, the user can change that setting. I mean, that's why it's in the config, Or worst case, you add that as a compile flag, right? As a make flag. But harkening in
Annotation in the
sense,
pod.
yeah,
That's,
yeah,
yeah,
right.
that's what I suggested to Dali originally, is override the value with the user or as an annotation in the pod spec. And I think, yeah, there is comment saying we need to look into SMP, but yeah, if more folks want to pile in on that and say we don't think this is the right approach, it needs looking into, then we can hold. I did tag the SMP folks, and Tobin also said, "Oh, I think we want to try and understand it."
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a report and stuff that Dali is showing, but yeah, I guess we can put it. I'll put a do not merge flag on it at the moment.
Oh, yeah, that's what I want to say. Okay.
Cool. Right. Realize we're out of time, so
Okay.
thanks
Perfect.
for joining, folks, and we'll
so much.
I'll see you and speak
Thank
to
you
you soon.
guys. Try to
Cheers.
Bye.